All right, everybody, welcome in to this video on possibly my favorite topic, which is North Node. And those of you who have spent any time on my channel know that this is the thing, this is the piece of your astrological birth chart that to me is so critical for you to understand, not just because of the spiritual path and not because of twin flame or anything like that, but your North Node shows you the karmic direction of your life. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the North Node in general, as it is affecting all of us, because it is shifting in 2023 from Taurus into Aries. And I'm going to talk about how that is going to impact you in 2023. All right, so before I get into the North Node and what is going to be happening in 2023, I want to refresh your memory on what North Node is and kind of how to think about it, okay? Because this is one of those placements in your astrology chart that you can really open up to, you can really work with. You can really stretch yourself because North Node, let's remember, North Node is about the thing that's new to you in this life. It is the main karmic lesson you're here to learn. We've all got kind of a lot of, maybe smaller or medium size lessons to learn, but this is the biggie, okay? And so North Node in someone's chart is the thing that they are being pushed to reach for. And it's a sense of, life is pushing me in this direction. I need to embrace this or I'm going to be left behind, right? The South Node is the thing that you may be having one of two experiences with. The South Node, you're either clinging to it for safety or you're like, yeah, it's time to move away from that into the North Node. Your North Node is that karmic pathway. It's this sense of karmic destiny. It is the tools, the experiences, the person you are becoming. That is what North Node is. And sometimes, I've taught a lot of classes on this and people are either like, hell yeah, or F no, right? Like they see that North Node, they hear me talk about what the North Node is and they're like, that sounds super scary. But in reality, it is exactly what your soul has planned for you in this life. And so the more we can do the work here on this channel and kind of open up to this idea of North Node, open up to your karmic pathway, it's not going to shove you out into the cold, okay? The North Node it's just going to show up in your life as opportunities, as little glimmers. And yes, if you do cling too hard to that South Node, North Node's going to get louder, okay? I promise you, North Node's going to get louder. Now, in your own personal chart, and then I will address North Node and how it's moving in a transit for all of us. But North Node in your personal chart looks like a little set of headphones, okay? It usually is posted on your zodiacal wheel. I'm talking about Western astrology, Placidus, or even Whole House, like wherever, whatever type of chart you're getting, Western astrology, that North Node looks like a little set of headphones, okay? And the South Node is exactly 180 degrees opposite from that. So what that shows me is when you think about oppositions, which is something that's exactly across, 180 degrees across, usually those two things kind of fight for primacy. There's a battle here for the old you and the new you. There's a battle between, I don't really want to do that today. I don't want to put myself out there and I want to stay inside where it's cozy. There's a total battle going on. And the signs that it's in, the 180 degree difference means that every single set of signs is a pair. Okay. So if you can think about it, instead of like, oh, my North Node's in Aries, think about it as a pair of North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio, North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius, and vice versa, if that's where you have it. But they are pairs. They are two sides of the same coin. So What's not going to help necessarily is just cutting off the south node. Cutting off that south node and being like, that's so my old past life and things that I've been clinging to or things that I've been unconscious about and on all of that. I'm really going for this north node. South node actually gets reactivated in a positive way when you do go toward your north node. So it's helpful to work with both of these energies. So for example, if you do have the north node in Aries, let's just say, and the south node in Libra, Aries is about leadership. Aries is about being your own person, is about being an individual, about being out in front of the crowd, about the one who's taking, the hit for the team, the one who's in charge, the visionary. To a lesser degree, there are other signs that are more visionary than Aries, but Aries is more about your own sovereignty, your own ability to push out into the world and do what you want. Libra is more about relationship. It's about the we. It's about us working together and how do I experience relationship. Now, if you have the south node in that placement of Libra, that means that you have a tendency to dissolve into relationships. Instead of Aries is like, I need to still be me, even if I'm in relationship. So what I'm trying to get at here is, if you are feeling like you're dissolving into relationships or you're dissolving into situations with a group or something like that, or you're finding, like you're hiding yourself, that the energy of a transit will push you more towards that north node. A lot of times a problem is found in the south node. So like a south node in Taurus, maybe we have a hard time making money or making ourselves stable, or we have a hard time with people not being loyal to us. And so we kind of fight with it and cling on to it. But here's the cool thing about north node and south node. The answer is in the north node. It's antithetical to how you might think. You might think staying and drilling down on this is the answer. The answer is actually going toward the north node. The reason that is that your south node is something that you have come to this planet with. All the tools and capabilities and know-how, right? All of that, you have that, and you know that south node very well, which is why it pisses some of you off when there's a problem in that south node, okay? And it is a very loud kind of karmic rattle when you have a problem in that south node. Now, some of you may be saying to me, I'm looking at my north node and south node, and I've always kind of had problems in that south node. And mostly I feel that way. Depends on when in your life you discovered it, right? When did I discover I'm having trouble with people not being loyal to me? Loyal to me. When am I having trouble making money or keeping money? When am I having trouble with my belief systems? When am I having trouble with my career? When am I having trouble with my children, right? Like you may not really see it until you discover this kind of placement in your astrology chart, in your birth chart. So I'm a huge fan of north node and south node because what happens is there is a problem that shows up in your south node, and the way to fix it is to go toward that north node, okay? And embrace that. So we'll talk about that and what happens when you embrace that north node energy, and I'll talk you through each of the signs and houses. When you go toward that north node and you do embrace that, that south node then opens up. So a lot of you, when I've been teaching about this north node, you're like, hey, my south node is in the money-making sector, right? Taurus or the second house or something like that. I'm supposed to go away from making money. I'm supposed to go away from that. It's not really like that. It's basically saying to you, go in a direction and that will open up your ability. Because we have this mindset of how money works and how things work in the world. North node and south node, I believe, are here to kind of break that. Okay? They're here to break that. So I'm going to talk you through what's going on in 2023, and then I will talk you through each of the pairs, okay? And understand the houses. The houses are the part of your life that is going to be most affected. So when you look at your birth chart, pay attention to where this lands in your own birth chart. Okay, we'll come back to that at the end of the video. All right, so let's talk about 2023. And in 2023, we still have North Node in Taurus, and North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. So if you look in your birth chart, where do you have Taurus? What house do you have Taurus in? Okay, I have it in my 7th house. So 7th house is the house of relationships, and that's the one that's impacted. All right, so you take a look, right? The house of relationships, 7th house, the house of me, 1st house, 7th and 1st house are pairs. Remember, I'm talking about the two opposites of each other are pairs, houses and signs. All right, I know this is kind of deep. So in 2023, the North Node is going to move from Taurus. The North Node, first of all, asterisk here, always is in retrograde. Always. And the North Node is moving from Taurus back into Aries. It's going to get there in the middle of the summer next year in 2023. So you have about 6 months or so. I feel like the solstice next year is going to be kind of a big deal. We also have eclipses that are going to activate this energy. Eclipses are always the signs of the nodal placements. So North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. This year in 2022, we had eclipses in Scorpio and Taurus. All right, you see this? Because the North Node is a node of the moon. It's a mathematical point on the moon, around the moon, sorry. And so all of those things are part, I won't go into the math of it, but it is about the eclipses are impacted. And when we shift, the eclipses change to those new signs. Okay, so globally, we are all impacted by North and South Node because it is also our direction and our purpose and our mission and our path as a species, as a collective, as a generation, all right, as a moment in time on Earth, the people who are here on Earth, we all share a karmic path. And parts of astrology really highlight that karmic path in our own particular charts. And it shows us our little piece of the puzzle, okay? So globally, the transit is moving from Taurus into Aries next year. And that means the South Node is moving from Scorpio into Libra, okay? Aries and Libra are on the axis next year. They will be the eclipses, meaning activation energy of super duper endings, super duper beginnings. And all you need to do to kind of understand this on a global level is to recognize that, well, the North Node's in Aries. Aries is about leadership, okay? Aries is about standing up to be counted. Aries is about my own personal sovereignty and having mission and purpose and taking action on that, right? Aries is a fire sign, so it's active. It is something that, you are ready to do. It is something that you're ready to step into. And a lot of this past year, since the North Node is in that particular sign for 18 months, it switches signs every 18 months. In Taurus, for the last 18 months, we have seen a lot of wondering about what I value. Taurus is about values. The values you're given by your family and the values that you then now are transformed into because of you, because of your own growth. How do you feel about money? How do you feel about the way money is experienced on this planet? How do you feel about your own particular need or desire for money? How do you feel about your own particular need or desire for stability and security? Those are all in the North Node in the past year. North Node went into Taurus at the beginning of 2022. And security became a big issue. Things were there were a lot of craziness going on in 2022, a lot of right sizing, a lot of change, a lot of loyalties. Where do my loyalties lie? Where do other people's loyalties lie? And with the South Node in Scorpio, the South Node is the place that we're comfortable. And in Scorpio, we have a lot of deep feelings about what's good for us and what we want to create in this life. We may have in a past life, if you have South Node in Scorpio, you may have moved around a lot, or you may have felt like moving or being fluid is more secure than being stable and solid and anchoring in something. Now, that may have been a thing for you this past year and into next year of what's safer. Is it safer to be more flexible and more malleable? Is it safer to be anchored in? Is there some kind of balance for this? So it's not about like completely blowing off Scorpio and saying, oh, change can't happen, because I also think that that causes people to be really rigid. That's what that means. Really rigid about where they're moving to. And I also feel like with North Node and Taurus, we are striking out in a direction of choosing our new values, the values that we as a group, as a society, as a species, we have been struggling with this for a while. And I do think this is going to go on, not just when the North Node changes. I do think that there will be some kind of resolution to the value discussion, value argument. What is important to us? What do we believe in? What do we not believe in? And things like that. And also reactivating that ability in Scorpio to be more adaptable, and to transform in a more values driven way, rather than just being like, okay, things suck, so I'm just going to, shit can this life and move on to something else. Like that can feel, if you have South Node in Scorpio, that could be you a little bit. You may have moved a lot. You may have just been like, okay, I can't work with this, so I'm going to shut it down and just move on to something else. This life, or this time with Taurus North Node still till middle of 2023, you might be being pushed to say, okay, I want enough anchoring, and I'm going to work with things now. And things that aren't aligned with my values are going to fall away. And I'm going to let them fall away, because I recognize that it's not necessarily about an old way of doing things, which is just total transformation all the time. Now we're saying we are transformed enough through that Scorpio South Node to be able to handle anchoring ourselves in a new value system, a new reality, a new way of us spending our lives and embracing our families, or embracing money, or embracing what we find comfort in. These things may be shifting and changing over this past 18 months. Okay. So now I'm going to so that's what's happening globally. You may have been feeling that for the last year, and still will feel it for another 6 months or so, or getting right into the time when we have the eclipses in Libra and Aries, which will happen next year. So let's talk about, what does it mean to have globally the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra? All right, what does that mean? Remember, North Node is an increase, is expanding, is the thing we're reaching for, is the thing that we want to create, is the thing that our karmic soul, or our karmic pathway, our soul's mission is pushing us toward, okay, toward embracing that. And the South Node shows what we're starting to shift away from, what we're starting to find less important, or at least the way we used to do it, okay? Because those skills and talents in that South Node are still viable for you. They'll be reactivated if you reach for that North Node. So what I want to say is, let's talk about Libra and Aries for a second, because that's where we're globally shifting. And then what I will do is I will go around to all the pairs so you can kind of understand how your placement may be impacted in 2023. Okay. So first off, let's talk about Aries and Libra, because everyone will be under that energy in the summer of 2023. With Aries in the North Node, let's start in the South Node though. Okay. Because this is where we have been as a collective. The Libra South Node believes there's safety in numbers, believes that it's important relationships and other people's opinions matter more than mine. Libra is a very good diplomat. It can tip over into people pleasing when it's in the South Node. It's something that we want to move away from. Libra can also be like, if you look at the traditional paradigm, like, let's just say, I mean, some of you, this is kind of, if you look at the traditional husband and wife paradigm, a lot of us grew up with that. Our parents are that. And until the 1970s or so, and, you know, in previous pieces of history where women were much more supported, in the middle of this of 20th century, 1960s, 1970s, women's role started to change. And so women, as a Libra-esque kind of Venus energy, were much more about the nurturing of the relationship, and were striking out to go toward what they wanted in life. They wanted to work. They wanted to earn their own money. They wanted to earn their own place in the world and things like that. So the traditional Libra South Node could be like viewed as a traditional kind of housewife, which is, I can't stand this, but anyway, someone who would feel like in the 50s, right? In 1950s, might feel trapped in that role, not feel able to be empowered, okay? Because they didn't have their own money, or they didn't have their own voice, or something like that. And this role of that was, other people's needs matter more than mine, or other people's opinions matter more. And what matters is keeping the family together and all of that. And so that's a traditional Libra South Node energy. You can find that in your work, where you might fade back into a team, or you might feel safety in relationships in a work environment. And then being asked to be in a more leadership role might feel a little scary, okay? The thing about South Node, though, is you're super good at it. You are accomplished at the South Node. There's no more learning that needs to take place in the South Node. The North Node is where the karmic learning, where not even the karmic learning, where your soul's learning. Karmic kind of has a negative connotation, which I don't want to even cast on this at all. But it is karma related, okay? It's like your soul is pushing you to learn these new things. So pushing you out of the paradigm of dissolving into relationships, fading into the woodwork, all of those kinds of things, afraid of being alone, that kind of thing. And what we're doing as a collective is, there's going to be a little bit of backlash against those who are a little bit, let's try to put this in the most positive way possible, right? There is going to be a little bit of backlash against those who want to hide. Because there's a difference between being really good, you know, being like a good whip, or a good someone who gathers consistency among people, or no, everybody, you know, sort of walking in the same path. There's a lot of very important skill set that it takes to make a team move in a direction. And if part of the South Node here in Libra is that we became more team oriented, or more focused on the group or the pack, there is going to be this sense of shoving you out of that and into more of a leadership role. So you could become at odds with the group that you belong to. You could start believing something very different than the group you belong to in. Okay. So I think about this in like 7th grade, when all the girls, like, there's these packs of girls, and I remember being part of this pack. And I remember distinctly going from pack to pack. Like, I wasn't necessarily, I had a leader kind of energy, and it was very evident to me wherever I went, whatever club or group I belonged to, people would gravitate towards what I thought we should do next, or whatever. And I was always kind of like, I wonder why that is. It's just that they sense that somehow, you know, this energy is going to push us forward. Okay. And whether you have that or you don't, it's about developing more of that for yourself. What do you want? Does it really go along with the pack? And you could see it in those 7th grade girl groups, which are nasty, when someone would kind of break out of the mold of what they were wearing. Okay, I had a good friend between 7th and 8th grade. His parents were British, and they moved back for the summer to London. And it was during the time of all the punk rock and everything like that. He came back with tons of piercings, and all kinds of stuff, and a buzz cut. And he's, oh my God, like so different. And he's the same David, right? He was the same David, but it was just like, wow, like you've really, and he just moved from one pack to another. That's quite possible. But when he came back here, he didn't float back into the pack mentality. He stayed there. He was like, that's for me. This kind of expression is for me. And so he still was loved by his friends and everything like that. But he definitely struck a chord. He struck out for himself. That's very Aries, okay? So how you can see this show up in your life, and I have my notes here, is that you may get triggered or tweaked by expressing an opinion or a desire for where your life is going or what you want to create, and you get crickets from your friends, or you get blowback from your family, and you're like, no, this is the right thing for me to do, or this is the right way for me. Like, I can't be cordoning myself off from my future because you guys don't agree with it. That is what is going to be happening next year, is that you are going to find little opportunities, little breadcrumbs of a possible future as a leader, as someone who has an opinion that matters, as someone who can be, kind of really held up for, wow, look at that. You really have courage. You really have strength. You're stepping into it. You're pushing yourself forward. And that feels good to the rest of us. The thing that's not going to feel good to us is fading back into old paradigms and dissolving our personalities for the good of the group. The biggest trigger I think you're going to see is that people who may not even recognize this about themselves yet, but people who do things for the look of the thing, meaning how it's experienced by someone else, like what your family looks like, or your money, or your car, your fame, your house, whatever, how it's experienced, your marriage, how it's experienced by other people. If that matters more to you than how it's experienced by you, that's going to get whacked. Okay. So it's like the beginning of baseball season, they're like, wow, this team looks great on paper. Yeah. They don't play the games on paper. So how is it really going to happen? It's going to happen because someone is going to step up and be a leader of that team. That's how it's really going to happen. And so you might find yourself, especially those of us who have been on the spiritual path for a while, have been kind of weirdly bogged down in this Taurus North Node energy, especially if you are a fire sign, or if Taurus is just like, if that's really tough for you, this is going to feel good. All right. This Aries energy is going to feel good. It might not feel so good for people who want to keep the status quo. And oddly enough, Taurus North Node can be a little bit of status quo. Okay. Because it's about what makes us comfortable. Moving into Aries, it's completely opposite energy. It's like, let's not dissolve ourselves into things that are old paradigms, because there will be a backlash against that. There will be a feeling of you're fading into the woodwork. You're not really doing what you're here to do. Internally you may feel very disrupted by that. So those people who care about the appearance of things, appearances, it is going to be completely wiped away. Okay. If that's the only thing that matters, And that's the thing that's going to be shown to be false or not real. If it's not real, if that veneer of wealth is not real, it's going to get wiped away. If that veneer of happy marriage is not authentic, it's going to be wiped away, because this is pushing us to step up, not just fit in. Like the whole becoming part of those seventh grade cliques was like, I wore the same clothes and I believe the same things and I hate the same other girls and all this stuff. But those who stand up and say, you know what, I kind of like her. I don't know what y'all are being so nasty about. That's Aries North Node. And it's uncomfortable because the rest of the crew is like, ew, well, you're not. That's my sixth grade girl or seventh grade girl voice. You're not going along with us anymore. Right. Because this is about upending paradigms that are wallpapering over the cockroaches. Okay. People are going to be pushed toward self sovereignty, independence, choosing to speak up and stand up for what you believe in, speaking your truth, and not just speaking it, because speaking it's more, that's more of a sword thing. This is a wand thing. This is about being inspired by the direction of your life and knowing that you can embrace it because you can work with this energy, even if you don't have Aries North Node. This is the energy we'll all be falling under. So you'll see it as a collective, that people will get pushed out of groups because they're like, yeah, no, I don't believe that anymore. And it is going to take on this like, wow, look at how awesome you are for standing up for yourself. Okay. So that's what's going on. Confidence from what other people think is going to be undermined, because that is going to be, it's not going to feel good anymore to have your own needs or your own feelings or your own ideas overshadowed by the group. All right. That's what's going to be happening. So now let me take you through, I'm going to take you through each of the pairs, and I'll talk about them in terms of the houses as well, because the house where you have Aries and also where you have your North Node, if it's not an Aries, are impacted during transitions of North Node. Okay. All right. All right. Let's start with Aries and Libra. I know I already talked through a lot of this, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But I want to say, if you have North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra, then everything I just said is going to show up for you personally, not just as like how you deal in the bigger world, right? And in your relationships, which is of course a big part of this, but it's going to impact you on a much more personal level than if you have North Node in Taurus or Scorpio or Pisces or something like that. You having the North Node in Aries is really going to activate you as a leader. Okay. And you want to look in your chart to see where your North Node falls, because that will tell you what house is impacted. All right. So for example, the sixth house is the house of our routines and our day job. Seventh house, the house of our intimate relationships, our partners. 10th house, the house of our careers. So I'm just going to talk about the pairs of signs right now, but don't throw away the houses. The houses are giving you a big clue as to how you're going to experience this axis and this activation. Remember, when eclipses happen, this stuff gets activated. All right. So you can see that in the spring moving into the summer. And then in the summer, the North Node shifts into Aries. So this is going to be happening in 2023. Okay. If you have this placement, Aries placement, the quest is for independence. The resource is your close relationships, because in your South Node, your past life or your childhood or both, you have mastered relationship. Doesn't mean you're not going to get married. Doesn't mean you're going to be alone forever, but it's pushing you to be solo on some level. Even if you're married, it's pushing you to have opinions. It's pushing you to be a leader. It's pushing you to stand up for what you believe in. It's pushing you to do things outside of the comfort zone of that little relationship. Okay. And that's what's going to be happening. If you have Aries North Node, if you have, so that means you have Libra South Node, which means you have accomplished relationships. If you have it the other way around, what that means is like North Node in Libra. What that means for you when the node is in the opposite sign is it's activating your ability to have leadership within that relationship in a different kind of way than you've had before. It's kind of asking you to internally review what has the last 10 years been like doing relationship, how I have been doing it, whether it's my friends or my family or my intimate relationships. And what about it do I want to change for me? So it really is asking you to focus on those relationships and maybe not be that, that leader. Maybe that was too strong. So you've got to look at that and see if maybe balancing this Libra energy or this Aries energy and floating it into relationships more. Maybe you're too independent. Maybe you spend a lot of time alone. Maybe you need to revisit your relationships. So that's what's being asked of you if you have Aries in North Node or Libra in North Node and Aries in the South Node. I already talked about Aries in the North Node, okay? But you can see how these two things it's just about balancing it. So too much independence, not enough focus on relationship, not enough focus on my own opinions, right? All of these things are going to get a little blast next year, okay? Now, if you have a different placement, if you have a North Node, like let's say in Taurus and a South Node in Scorpio, well, you've been experiencing the transit for the past year and for the next 6 months. So this transit is pushing you, depending on what house it's in, to really embrace what you value, to really understand for yourself, hey, if I'm going to put energy toward this, it's something I have to really believe in. There's a loyalty feeling of Taurus North Node. Taurus North Node is a quest for security. And especially during times of upheaval, South Node Scorpio, okay? So Scorpio is upheaval, it's transformation, and we are being asked to embrace the thing that makes us feel comfortable and safe, even during times of massive upheaval. So if you have that North Node placement right now, you're being tested to strike out in the direction of this is meaningful for me, and this is going to create stability and wealth for me. It's something that I find very important. I'm going to go away from completely changing who I am. Instead, I'm going to anchor in it. Okay, that could have been your experience this year and maybe into next year. The North Node in Taurus is a quest for security. Your resources is your access to what other people have. South Node in Scorpio is about other people's money. It is about, it's about taxes. It's about stuff that goes on behind closed doors that we don't talk about. There can be tweaks where you are challenged to push back against the values of your family, instead striking out in your own direction. You may need to create your own family or create your own tribe. You may have needed to make success on your own. Your South Node contains the fact that you are able to access other people's money or other people's support or stability or in some way, but you're going to need to strike out on your own and create your own. Okay. So that's what North Node in Taurus is about with the South Node in Scorpio. The North Node in Scorpio, let me see, I'm going to try to do this. North Node in Scorpio is more about the quest to integrate those things. Okay. Quest to integrate the other, quest to integrate what other people have or access other people's resources or support, really embrace transformation. That is what's happening. And you're moving away from any kind of values that you may have espoused, whether they come from your family or not. This North Node in Scorpio is really pushing you to be that kid David in my class who came back completely changed. So if you have Scorpio in the North Node, this year may have been a time of you really pushing back on tradition. Okay. You may have had a very solid, stable upbringing. You may have been somebody who created a very solid career in corporate America or whatever, and now you're just like, I'm out. I'm doing something different. It may push you into some really interesting parts of your own psyche, of your own awareness. It definitely has you going deep. So if you have North Node in Scorpio right now, it is the opposite of what's going on in the sky right now. And that is saying an internal shift, massive internal shift. Okay. So now let's talk about let's talk about Gemini and Sag. And the axis of Gemini and Sag, very interesting to me. I have a lot of Gemini, I have a lot of Sag, and Sag is about my philosophy, but it's a philosophy that we're plugged into on a larger level. So these can be like religious orientation of your family, political parties. These are things that already exist, right? These big philosophies, these expanded knowledge base, right? This really kind of thing plugged into a philosophy. But it's not necessarily your philosophy, okay? Gemini is the energy of drilling down, really wanting to learn and getting information for ourselves so we can create that experience of, no, this is my philosophy. So you see this a lot with people, this Sagittarius and Gemini axis. You see, you can see someone who comes from either a traditional religious background, completely reject that and go toward their own belief system. You can see someone who's very rejecting, South Node in Gemini, very rejecting of any kind of thing that I have created or any kind of knowledge that I have, or a fear that, I don't want to be unplugged from something larger than myself. I don't want to just wallow around in a lot of facts and my own kind of made up beliefs is how you could be thinking about it. Instead, I want to go towards something that is safe and secure in terms of a belief system that other people believe too. So you can have this experience. If you have North Node in Gemini, you can be somebody who's already plugged into, you could be plugged into a very, educationally based family that they really believe in degrees and, getting your master's, getting your PhD. They really have a value around that. And that's really important to them. And as a Gemini person or Gemini North Node, you might reject whatever that belief system is and go toward your own. You might, if they're super religious, you might become an atheist or agnostic. If they're super into college degrees, you may blow that off and travel the world and blow off college, and that's not for me. If you have Sagittarius North Node, this is really about finding philosophy that works for you and maybe plugging into something, expanding your horizons from your own narrow approach to things and expanding into stuff that does exist, right? That, the philosophies do exist out there. When you have North Node in Sagittarius, it doesn't mean you're going away from your own beliefs and plugging into somebody else's beliefs. Instead, it's like discovering this whole world of belief systems beyond what you narrowly know. So you could see this with foreign travel, being inspired by other cultures, right? Maybe you've grown up Catholic and you're like, wow, what's this whole Buddhism thing? Or what's this whole food thing about not eating sugar and no wheat and all of that? And all my life I've been, living in pasta world, and I'm going to go towards a different way of eating, a different belief system around eating. And you really will be able to understand the world in a different way when you have this North Node and South Node placement. And as I said again, if you have North Node in Sag, South Node in Gemini, or flipped, look and see what houses those are in, and that will tell you what part of your life is going to come under the microscope in terms of your belief systems. Okay? So, for example, if you have this placement in the 10th house of career, your family could be super supportive of everybody's been doctors. Okay? And you're like, I want to make pottery. I want to be an artist. I want to, it's career. 10th house is career. So it's the way we show ourselves in the world. So you can find yourself going against what your family wanted you to do and expressing yourself and plugging yourself into a different kind of family or a different kind of belief system. Okay. As it relates to your career, like, I don't do that corporate shtick. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to be an energy worker, or I'm going to read tarot on YouTube or something like that. And it completely goes against the family belief systems. Okay. So Gemini and Sagittarius, very interesting. It really is about, what do I believe? Have I created it? Have somebody else created it? And the rule here is about expansion, about kind of breaking out of that mold. Because both of these, Gemini and Sagittarius, Gemini is an air sign, Sagittarius a fire sign, and Gemini believes in the power of knowledge, and Sagittarius believes in the power of belief. Okay, believes in the power of belief. And so how can we balance these things? All right, so that's North and South Node in Gemini and Sagittarius. The pairing of Cancer and Capricorn is super interesting too. This is something that I think of Cancerian energy as mother energy and Capricorn energy as father energy. As I'm recording this, we are moving into Capricorn season. We are moving into the new moon in Capricorn, where we plant the seeds of our manifestations for the year to come in terms of our work in many ways. Cancer rules the 4th house naturally, and that is the house of mother and nurturing. And 10th house is the house of father. Traditionally, fathers go out, and I know, but traditionally fathers go out into the world and make their mark on the world, traditionally. So with this Cancer and Capricorn placement of your own North Node, this Aries energy, the Aries North Node energy, just think about this in terms of every single one I'm talking about, every single pair. Aries is a very activational leadership kind of energy. So your personal North Node in the 10th house or something like that can show that, wow, it's really time to step up to be a leader in your work life, in your career, and to, push back on trying to stay home or trying to be in the home in such a way that is not visible, right? You can have a business that's based in your home and still be visible. I mean, witness my business, right? I'm still visible. It's based in the home, but it's all about, the work that I'm doing, and it's going out into the world. So if you find yourself with your North Node and you have this Cancer Capricorn placement, this North Node in Aries, if it's impacting it, if it's activating it through the eclipses next year, then you're going to find yourself, it's about your career and your home life. And work-life balance is really the easiest way to say this with a Cancer and Capricorn North Node and South Node pair. One of them is out of whack and the other one is needing to step up. So you're always going to be fighting that battle with Aries coming into leadership in this North Node coming along in 2023. You are really going to be pushed even harder at that work-life balance. And especially in terms of, you might take a leadership role in, no, I'm not going to be the one who is going to be doing all the corporate stuff. No, I'm the leader in expanding my own home, in being part of the home, and in taking a leadership role with my kids or something along that line. So you can see how this might change, all right, as we go along through this Aries North Node. Now, if you have this Capricorn and Cancer North Node, South Node placement for yourself, North Node in Taurus may have felt pretty comfortable to you, okay? It may have felt pretty good. If you have that North Node in Cancer and you're needing to go toward home and all that kind of stuff, it might have tweaked you a little bit, because your South Node is really getting blown off. Your corporate leadership or your job or your career is really not the thing that's the main issue here. Where your security and stability is creating your home and being pushed more into that place. So you could have felt that over the course of the last year. and into next year. When Aries shows up, now it's more about you saying, hey, this is what I really want, and this is what I'm going to go after. Okay. Now, if you have your North Node in Aquarius and Leo, this is going to be a very interesting time for you because North Node in Aquarius is all about the collective. Okay. It's all about doing the things that are good for all of us and taking no credit for it. Now, Aries is not about that. So if you have your own North Node in Aquarius, you're being pushed to be either like a civil rights leader, human rights, women's rights. You're being pushed to work in terms of large organizations and moving things forward that require a lot of people. It's not just you. But Aries North Node is saying, hey, what is just you? So this might be the argument going on in your whole existence during that 18-month experience of, hey, I've really been moving away from my Leo. My Leo says, hey, what about me? And Aquarius says, no, go toward the collective. Do the thing that is philosophically aligned with what the collective needs. Leo is creativity for personal enjoyment. Okay. Leo is like the person, I always think about this. Leo, North Node or South Node, Leo energy in the nodal placement is about art for art's sake. It's about doing the creative thing because you enjoy it, not because it has any kind of socially redeeming purpose. But North Node in Aquarius is about, it must have a generational purpose. It must be for the good of all. And we use our creativity for the good of all. When Aries is in North Node, Aries is going to be like, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm getting lost in all of this. And I do need to strike out on my own. Whether it's for the collective good or not is not my primary focus. What is my primary focus is I need to rally my troops. I need to rally my connections, my friends, my work in service of something I feel is most important. It may or may not be the most important thing for all of us, but you now have a series of relationships and you can you have like pods of people everywhere you can plug yourself into and move things in a direction. I do feel like, because if you do have that Aquarius North Node and Aries is being activated right now, so the fight is going to go on between what's good for me and what's good for we. That is going to be a huge fight on every single level of this, all through the next 18 months from the mid of 2023 to the end of 2024. Okay. Now, if you have North Node in Pisces and Virgo, these two always seem like the oddball pair to me, but I'm going to tell you, I'm getting more and more. The more I read about them, the more I get more and more aware of them, the more I understand it. Virgo is much more about the routine. What can I do in my life that's going to make me feel anchored and solid and safe and capable and act as a servant at the same time? Virgo really embraces that idea that I'm going to put my skill set at the disposal of others, especially since it's worked for me. I want it to work for you. So there's a lot of healers in Virgo. And Pisces is about no restrictions, no routines. I want to plug myself into the spirit world. And when you have this pair, there's a constant battle between my day-to-day 9-to-5 job and my spiritual path, my desire to be a spiritual being, a shaman or something like that. And you'll see that opposition, right? The Virgo and the Pisces, it's constantly tying a rope to your feet and keeping you anchored in the world. So you'll see that over the course of time, be a shaman, but you're going to need to make it a 9-to-5 job, or you're going to need to make a routine, a persistence, a consistently applied effort in order for that to also benefit you in some meaningful way, or for you to fulfill your karmic destiny here. If you have Virgo as North Node, then you are definitely someone who prefers to be swimming around in the spiritual. That is a past life thing, though, for you, and you're bringing those tools to the day to day. So a lot of healers have South Node in Pisces and North Node in Virgo, and they freaking hate it because they think Virgo is very just the facts, ma'am, 9-to-5 job, routines, all of that. But if you think about it for a minute, you're making a container for your healing capability. That's all you're doing with North Node and Virgo. You need to have a container for it. It has to have a business structure. It has to have a bookkeeper. You have to know how the business works. You have to know how to get clients. All of these things, that's very Virgo energy. And you're putting those things at the disposal of other people in a healing way. All right. So with this Aries energy in North Node, it can really force you as a Virgo North Node person to kind of try and break the traditional containers or structures around people who do spiritual work, or people who do this kind of, or creatives, artists, poets, whatever, to try and break that and make something new based on what it is you're here to say. What is the thing you're here to say? It's not just about like the routine of it. Has to be a purpose for it. And that comes from your South Node, right? Pisces South Node, super connected to spirit, super connected to spirit guides. And you're not going away from that, but what you're doing is you're injecting it into your life as a structure, as something that can support your livelihood, okay? And all of those things. So this is the way that the Aries North Node may be impacting. If you have like Pisces in the North Node, then you may be a little bit too practical about things. And the Aries North Node energy is really pushing you as a Pisces North Node to express yourself visibly. Okay? Because a lot of the thing about Pisces North Node is about alone. And the Aries North Node is about being seen doing it. So shamans, right? Shamans, mystics, sitting on a mountaintop, meditating for 20 hours a day or whatever it is, there's something that needs to be shown in terms of your leadership with that energy, with that spiritual energy. So this can take many forms, but none of them are as practical. If you get down into the weeds of Virgo needing structure too much, you're going to crush that. All right. So it's a delicate balance. All of these placements are delicate balance. Okay. And you don't just go into one and forget about the other. Your entire life, this is being tweaked. And the real key to North Node is to bounce back and forth. If you hold on and cling too much to the South Node, you're going to get a tower moment. If you go toward that North Node and forget about the South Node, same thing, tower moment. Now, every single thing I just said about the signs, right? Try to keep with me here. Every single thing I said about the signs is also true about the houses. Now, let me try to explain this, because I think this is a thing that a lot of people don't understand. I just went through all of the 6 pairs of signs, right? Aries and Libra, Taurus and Scorpio, Gemini, Sag, Cancer, Capricorn, Leo, Aquarius, and Virgo and Pisces. Now, if you understand that each of those signs are naturally ruling one of the 12 houses, it's going to be so much easier for you to understand. Everything you know about Aries, which is probably a lot. I mean, even if you're not an Aries, you probably have known Aries or whatever. That quality, that information is also true of the first house. So the first house has to do with myself. It has to do with my physical being. It has to do with who I am in the world in terms of just being here, okay? How people experience me. It's a little bit of a combination between my ascendant and my first house. How I like or don't like my face It's my face in my head. It's how I think. That's first house stuff. So when anything transits through the first house, you're really getting a sense of, wow, it's pinging me in terms of my identity. Okay. So first house is about identity. The reason I'm telling you about the houses is wherever things fall, whatever house it's in will show you what is going to be pinged, what experience is going to be activated for you, what part of your life will be impacted. The second house is about your money, is about your values, is about your stability and security. The third house is about your communication, how you express yourself. It's also about siblings. It's about your close community, a small, kind of like your neighborhood and kind of things like that. It's about you also being able to communicate for yourself. After you've left the house, after you've left your family, first and second house, third house is about you, striking out a little bit into the world. Fourth house is about mother. It's about nurturing. It's about our home. It's about the family we then create with other people. So if you have, I'm saying this to you, if you have Aries in the fourth house, this can be about your family that you have created. That's what part of your life can be impacted. Okay? The fifth house is the house of creativity. That can be impacted if you have Aries in that house. The sixth house is the house of your day job and your structure, your routines. That can be impacted if you have Aries in the sixth house. Okay? If you have Aries in the seventh house, like I do, that's your intimate relationships that's going to be impacted. If you have Aries in the eighth house, house of change, transformation, death, taxes, that can be impacted by this Aries North Node. You have Aries in the eighth house. It has something to do with things that are going on behind the scenes that are now you're going to show to everybody out of the darkness. Okay? If you have Aries in the ninth house, it's about your belief systems. Something you've believed your whole life may show up to be not a thing for you. And you're like, oh, why have I been following this the whole time? I don't believe that. I believe this. That's ninth house. All right. Some of you can also in the ninth house be becoming scholars of certain kinds of bodies of information. Ninth house is really about it's also about education, it's about philosophies and everything, but higher education, when we get to a certain level, when you get to like master's and PhD, even if it's not like a practical program or an actual program, you know enough about a particular discipline to have ideas about it and change it because your philosophy, your belief systems, you may see because you know so much that that's false and we're going to go in a different direction. So that's North Node, or that's ninth house. 10th house is the house of career. It's the house that we show up in to other people. This is, your career. It's not your job. It's the thing you've built over the course of your adult life. So it doesn't even really have to necessarily be about a job. It can be that you come across as a reformer. You come across as a truth teller. You come across as somebody, and every single job you've had, every single kind of experience you had really feeds into that. You can be somebody who is a champion for free speech. You can be somebody who is really wanting to shine the light on certain kinds of horrific practices that go on in the world. If you have Aries in the 11th house, that North Node is going to be transiting that 11th house, and that is going to ask you to be a leader among a group, large groups. This is really the go up the hill behind me kind of thing, the leader in terms of a belief or a cause for the benefit of everyone. And I am going to take it in the teeth because everybody needs this. All right. That is, if you have Aries in the 11th house, you also have a lot of resources of other people. Aries in the 11th house is somebody who is, can be seen as maybe someone who stands alone in a group. But you do have them. You do have the groups. You have access to large groups of people and people that are important to not keep close, but activate when you need them. Okay. Like people will come to your rescue. Okay. And especially if you're leading some kind of charge. if you have Aries in the 12th house, that is a spiritual leader's position. Okay. And so what that can mean is that you finally have to step up and say it out loud and shine your freak flag. If you're a shaman and and you work at Starbucks and you're the best barista in the world, but you're a shaman, you're going to need to step into that shaman territory. All right. So I think that's about the limit of what I wanted to say today. But if you want to learn more about your North Node placement, your karmic path, your karmic mission in this life, I'm going to drop a link below. There's a couple things going on. I do have a class that is about North Node mastery, and that is a self-paced class. You can take that. You can also jump into the Pathfinder group. We talk a ton about North Node and our mission and purpose in this life. You can also join my Accelerate Your Ascension Path group, which is going to be kind of an exponentially bigger thing than even Pathfinders. I'm going to be teaching every single week, and it'll also be interactive with Q&A. So I will teach different things about the ascension, about the stages you go through, about what parts of astrology are really going to help you. And we are going to make this an interactive learning experience. So if you want to join the Accelerate Your Ascension program, that's in the description box too. Okay? Okay. So I hope this was very helpful for you. Just know that the North Node is moving from, what is it? From Taurus into Aries in the middle part of next year. So you've got some time here, but just know I'll start talking about this again when we're talking about eclipses in 2023. All right. So much love to you. I hope this was helpful for you, and drop a comment. Like to hear. All right, I hope you enjoyed that video. If it was helpful to you, please consider liking this video and sharing it with anybody who might have a need for similar kind of information. And if you like this video, check out these videos.